Hello, you are welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we shall be looking at inter-VLAN routing using the model router on a stick. My name is Claude Fozao and I will be taking you through this tutorial. If you look at the diagram, you are going to see that we have three pieces and the three pieces are connected to switch S1. We have PC1 that will be in VLAN 10. We have PC2 that will be in VLAN 20 and we have PC3 that will be in VLAN 30. The three pieces are connected to switch S1 and switch S1 is a layer 2 device. By default, a layer 2 device cannot carry traffic from one VLAN to another. It therefore means that PC1 will not be able to communicate with PC2 as well as be able to communicate with PC3. For the three pieces to be able to communicate with each other, we need a layer 3 device, and in this case we are going to use a router. Right now the router R1 is connected to the switch using just one link, as you can see. This is the model called router on a stick. For router on a stick model, for traffic to move from one VLAN to another, for example, for traffic to move from PC1 to PC2, the traffic will leave PC1, move to the switch, from the switch to the router, back to the switch, and then to PC2. It therefore means that the link between switch S1 and the router R1 must be configured as a trunk link. On the side of S1, we are going to configure the port gigabit Ethernet 0/1 as a trunk port, and we are going to allow a limited number of VLANs through that port. On the side of R1, we are going to use the port fast Ethernet 0/1 to create sub interfaces, and for each VLAN we are going to create a sub interface for it. It therefore means that we are going to create a sub interface for VLAN 10, a sub interface for VLAN 20, and another sub interface for VLAN 30. All these sub interfaces will be created on the gigabit Ethernet 0/1 on R1. We are going to start by verifying the VLANs that are created on the switch. So let's get into the switch. Right now I'm in privilege Excel mode on the switch. I'll use the command show VLAN brief to display the VLANs that are configured on the switch. If you look very well, you are going to see that we have VLAN 1 and it is named default. All the switch ports are assigned to that VLAN. We also have VLAN 1002 up to VLAN 1005 created on the switch. Those VLANs are default VLANs that come with the switch. We are going to start first of all by creating different VLANs on the switch, and we are going to create the VLANs according to the VLAN table that is given to us. So let's look at the VLANs table. Okay, we have a table here, and the table is called VLAN and port assignment table. We are going to create VLAN 10 and we are going to name it faculty/staff, and we are going to assign ports fast Ethernet 0/11 up to 17 to it. We are going to create VLAN 20 and we are going to name it student, and we are going to assign ports fast Ethernet 0/18 up to 24 to it. We are also going to create VLAN 30. We are going to name it guest, and in bracket default we are going to assign port fast Ethernet 0/6 up to 10 to it. We are going to configure the VLAN 88 and we are going to name it native, and on the interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1 that will be configured as a trunk port, we are going to configure VLAN 88 as a native VLAN. We are also going to create VLAN 99, name it management, and we are going to create a switch virtual interface VLAN 99 on the switch and assign an IP address to it that will be used to connect to the switch remotely for administration purposes. So let's start by creating the different VLANs on the switch. So I go back to the switch For me to create the VLANs, I have to be in global configuration mode. And to be in global configuration mode, I will use the command configure terminal to get to global configuration mode. While in the global configuration mode, I will use the command VLAN. Then I will specify the VLAN ID of the VLAN I want to create. I will specify 10 because I want to create VLAN 10. Now it takes me to VLAN 10 configuration mode. I will use the command name. I say faculty /staff to name it faculty /staff. I will create VLAN 20. I will name it student. I will create VLAN 30. I will name it guest bracket default. I will create a VLAN 88. I will name it native. I will create VLAN 99. I will name it management. Okay, I'm done with creating the VLAN, so I can exit from VLAN configuration mode. I'm going to assign ports to those VLANs. First of all, I will assign port fast Ethernet 0/11 up to 17 to VLAN 10. I will use the command interface range fast Ethernet 0/11 up to 17 to specify a range of interfaces. I will make them access port using the command switch port mode access to make those ports access port, and I will assign them to VLAN 10 using the command switch port access VLAN 10. I'm done assigning ports to VLAN 10. I will use the command interface range fast Ethernet 0/18 to 24 to specify a range of interfaces from fast Ethernet 0/18 to 24. While in this mode, I will use the command switch port mode access to make them access port. I will assign them to VLAN 20 using the command switch port access VLAN 20. I'm done assigning ports to VLAN 20. I will assign port fast Ethernet 0/6 to 22 VLAN 30. So I will use the command interface range fast Ethernet 0/6 up to 10. I will make them switch ports using the command switch port mode access. I will assign them to VLAN 30 using the command switch port access VLAN 30. I'm done assigning ports to those 3 VLANs. Okay, if I display the VLANs again using the command show VLAN brief, going to see the difference now. As you can see, I have default VLAN 1 that is named default with port fast Ethernet 0/1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and gigabit Ethernet 0/1 and 0/2 assigned to the native VLAN. I have VLAN 10 that is named faculty/staff with port fast Ethernet 0/11 up to 17 assigned to it. As you can see, I have VLAN 20 named students, and I have port fast Ethernet 0/18 up to 24 assigned to it. I have VLAN 30 configured and named guest in bracket default with port fast Ethernet 0/6 up to 10 assigned to it. There's VLAN 88 and 99. There's VLAN 88 and 99 configured, but there's no ports assigned to them. The next thing I'm going to do is to configure the port that is connected to router R1 as a trunk port, and I'm going to allow the VLANs that I've just created through that port, and also make VLAN 88 as a native VLAN on that port. Okay, so I will go into S1 again. Right now I'm in S1, and in S1 I will use the command configure terminal. To get to global configuration mode, I will use the command interface gigabit ethernet 0/1 to get to the interface configuration mode. While in this mode, I will use the command switch port mode trunk to make the port a trunk port. I will use the command switch port trunk allowed VLAN 10, 20, 30, 88 and 99. So I've allowed those VLANs through the trunk link. I will say switch port trunk native VLAN 88 to change the default VLAN. It is recommended to change the default VLAN from, it is recommended to change the native VLAN from VLAN 1 to any unused VLAN on the network. This permits to protect the network against what we call VLAN hopping attack. Okay, I'm done with configuring the trunk port. What needs to be done is to configure the interface gigabit ethernet 0/1 on R1. So on this interface, I'm going to create sub interfaces for the different VLANs that I've created, and those sub interfaces will be created and assigned IP addresses using an IP address table. Let's look at the IP address table. Okay, if we look, this is R1. R1 has an interface gigabit ethernet 0/1 with an IP address 172.17.25.2. Subnet mask is 255.255.255.252. If we look at the diagram, this is the interface that is connected to internet. Okay, there is interface gigabit ethernet 0/1 that is connected to the LAN. Let's look at the IP addresses to assign to the sub interfaces on that interface. We are going to create a sub interface gigabit ethernet 0/1.10. We are going to assign an IP address 172.17.10.1 to it with subnet mask 255.255.255.0. This IP address will act like a default gateway for VLAN 10. We are going to create another sub interface gigabit ethernet 1.20, and we are going to assign an IP address 172.17.20.1. This IP address will act like the default gateway for VLAN 20. We are going to do the same. We are going to create a sub interface gigabit ethernet 0/30, and we are going to assign an IP address 172.17.30.1, and this IP address will act like a default gateway for VLAN 30. We are going to create another sub interface gigabit ethernet 0/1.88, and we are going to assign an IP address 172.17.88.1. We are going to also tell the router that VLAN 88 will be used as a native VLAN. Then the last thing will be to create another sub interface gigabit ethernet 0/1.99 and assign an IP address 172.17.99.1. This IP address will act like the default gateway for VLAN 99 that acts like the management VLAN. So let's configure the router. I get into the router. I will first of all start by displaying interfaces that are available on the router with their IP address configuration using the command show IP interface brief. If you look very well, we have gigabit Ethernet 0/1 that already has an IP address assigned to it. The status is up and line protocol is up. We have gigabit Ethernet 0/1. It doesn't have any IP address assigned to it. The status is administratively down and line protocol is down. So we are going to use this interface to create sub interfaces according to the IP address table. Okay, let's start by going to the global configuration mode using the command configure terminal. Okay, I'm in global configuration mode. I will start by configuring the interface itself and I will enable it. So I say interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1. I will say no IP address because I don't want to assign any IP address to this interface as a whole. I will enable the interface using no shutdown command. So the interface is enabled. I'm going to start by creating a sub interface for VLAN 10 using the command interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.10. Okay, I'm now in sub interface configuration mode for gigabit Ethernet 0/1.10. I will say encapsulation .1q10 to tell the router that this sub interface will be used to carry traffic for VLAN 10. I'm going to assign an IP address to it that will act as the default gateway for VLAN 10 using the IP address 172.17.10.1. I will specify the subnet mask using the 255.255.0. Okay, that is good. I can give it a description. I can just say description VLAN 10. I'm done with configuring sub interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.10. I will create another sub interface for VLAN 20. So I say interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.20. Okay, I'm in sub interface configuration mode for gigabit Ethernet 0/1.20. I will use the command encapsulation .1q to tell the router that this sub interface will be used to .1q20 to tell the router that this interface will be used to carry traffic for VLAN 20. I will assign an IP address to it that will act like the default gateway for VLAN 20 using the command IP address 172.17.20.1. I specify the subnet mask. Okay, I can give it a small description. I say VLAN 20. I'm done with configuring sub interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.20. I'm going to create another sub interface for VLAN 30 using the command interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.30. I will say encapsulation .1q30 to tell the router that this sub interface will be used to carry traffic for VLAN 30, and I will say I will give it an IP address 172.17.30.1. I specify the subnet mask. I'm done. I can give it a description. I say VLAN 30. I'm done with the configuration of that sub interface. I'm going to create another sub interface for VLAN 88, and I'm going to specify VLAN 88 as a native VLAN. So I use the command interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.88. I will say encapsulation .1q88 to tell the router that this interface will be used to carry traffic for VLAN 88. I will say native to also tell the router that VLAN 88 is a native VLAN. I will assign an IP address to it using the command IP address. I say 172.17.88.1 255.255.255.0. I'm done. I can just say description. I say VLAN. I say VLAN 88. I'm done with the configuration of that sub interface. The last sub interface to configure is sub interface for VLAN 99. So I say interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.99. I will say encapsulation .1q99 to tell the router that this sub interface will be used to carry traffic for VLAN 99. I was assigned an IP address to it. IP address 172.17.99.1.255.255.255.0. I am done. I can just say description VLAN 99. I'm done with the configuration of the router. I can again use the command show IP interface brief to display interfaces and sub interfaces on the router. If you look, you are going to see that there are 5 sub interfaces configured on the router, and all the interfaces, their status is up and line protocol up. Let me save the configuration of the router using the command copy run start. I'm done. One more thing that needs to be done is to assign an IP address to the switch that will be used for management purposes. So I'll go to the switch again. I will go to global configuration mode using the command. Right now I'm in privilege XM mode, so I'll go to global configuration mode using the command configure terminal. In this mode, I will use the command interface VLAN 99 to create a switch virtual interface for VLAN 99. I will assign an IP address to it, and this IP address will be used to connect to the switch remotely for administration purposes. So I say IP address 192. Is not 192, is 172.17.99.10. I say 255.255.255.0. Can just say no short to enable the interface. I need to specify a default gateway. I need to configure a default gateway on the switch so that the switch can communicate out of its own management VLAN, can communicate with other hosts out of its own management VLAN using the command IP default gateway. I will specify the default gateway as 172.17.99.1. That is the IP address assigned to sub interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1.99 on the router. I'm done. Okay, I can say show IP interface brief to see the different interfaces that are configured on the switch. As you can see, there is VLAN 99, there is interface VLAN 99. It has an IP address 172.17.99.10. The status is up and line protocol is up. I'm going to test connectivity between the switch and the router using the command ping. So I say ping 172.17.99.1. I want to ping the IP address of the router. Let's see if it will go through. The ping goes through, meaning that communication between the switch and the router is okay. The last thing to do will be to test connectivity between the different PCs. I'm going to verify the IP address of PC1, PC2, and PC3. Then from PC1, I will see if I can ping PC2 and also ping PC3. If the ping goes through, it therefore means that inter-VLAN routing is fine. Okay, I go to PC1. I go to the desktop. I click on run. I first of all check the IP address. The IP address using the command ipconfig. As you can see, the IP address of PC1 is 172 172.17.10.21. Its default gateway is 172.17.10.1. I'm going to check the IP address of PC2. Right now I'm connected to PC2. Why? I say ipconfig. It tells me that the IP address is 172.17.20.22 and the default gateway is 172.17.20.1. That is good. I also check the IP address of PC3 using the command ipconfig. The IP is 172.17.30.23. The default gateway is 172.17.30.1. I'm going to go back to PC1. From PC1, I will try to ping the IP address of PC2. So I'll say ping 172.17.20.22. That is the IP address of PC2. Let's see if the ping will go through. The ping goes through, meaning that from PC1 that is in VLAN 10, I'm able to ping PC2 that is in VLAN 20. So inter-VLAN between VLAN 10 and 20 is okay. So I'm going to also from PC1 ping PC3. So I'll say ping 172.17.30.23. Let's see if the ping will go through. That is the IP address of PC3. Okay, it says timeout. The ping goes through, meaning that from VLAN 10, I'm able to communicate with VLAN 30. Therefore, inter-VLAN routing between VLAN 10 and 30 is fine. Just as a last thing, let me see if from PC2 I can ping PC3. So I'm connected to PC2. Right now, this is PC2. From PC2, I will say ping 172.17.30.23. Let's see the ping from PC2 that is in VLAN 10, that is in VLAN 20 is successful. I can ping from PC2 to PC3. Therefore, inter-VLAN routing between VLAN 20 and VLAN 30 is okay. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.